Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ella Johnson Show. Yes, it's Sunday and it's time to go live, guys. Listen, I am so excited about this month and about all of my guests that have been coming on to the Ella Johnson Show. It's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and women have come on here and just with courage have sat here one by one told their story, their true story of survival. Now, there are many of you that could be watching this broadcast that could be in that same type of situation. Well, listen, the purpose of these shows is for you to hear something that will motivate and move you to get out before it's too late. Now, if you are watching from Facebook, of course, I appreciate you. You know, I do. I appreciate when you guys share the broadcast, when you're here and you're making comments and you're encouraging our guests. So do me a favor, if you're watching from Facebook, share the broadcast. There's a little button right there at the end of the comments that just share it. If you're watching from YouTube, I also appreciate you. And I am glad that you tune in each week from YouTube. So if you are watching from YouTube, do me a favor and just subscribe to my channel. I mean, you're already there, right? So I appreciate that. But guys, listen, I am excited tonight. I want you to share. Let people know that the Ella Johnson Show is on and we are hearing another true story of survival, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Now, you guys know how we do things here on the Ella Johnson Show. We always get a motivational message, and then I'm going to show you a video. And then when we come back, you're going to get to meet my beautiful guest, right? Now, our motivational message for today. I was listening to some things today and I said, what can I talk about to encourage my guests for the week? This is your nugget for the week. Get your week started off right. Get it all juiced up, right? So I have one liner for you. I want you to stop tripping during your trouble. What, Ella? Yeah. Stop tripping during your trouble. Because we all have trouble and we all trip. We just need you to not trip during your trouble, because and this is what I've learned, and this is what I've experienced with people that I know and that I've grown with. We love to say this one thing, Shavon. We love to say, why me? Like, God, why me? We think that what we're going through is so hard. It's like, God, why me? And you know what God is saying? Why not you? Ooh, why not me? Yeah. I mean, he sacrificed his son. He did so many things for us, and he's still doing things for us, and he may need to use you, So when he allows things to come on you, it's because he knows what he put in you, right? God is not, Job. How many people know Job? We all know the story of Job. I start thinking about the song, Job was sick so long till the flesh fell off his bones. Listen, Job was an upright man. He was a man of faith, and God knew that, and he allowed a lot to come on him. And if you don't believe me, then let's talk about Joseph. Same thing. Joseph was a great kid, he was thrown in a pit. So there are people in biblical times as well as here that go through things, but God is using it. Because what we have to understand is that God is not sentencing you to pain. He's just structuring you for your purpose. Say that again, Shavon.
Ooh. Okay.
I'm going to say that again because I need the lights in the church to say amen, baby.
Amen.
God is not sentencing you to pain, but he is just structuring you for your purpose. So, Ella, are you saying that there's purpose in my pain? Ding, 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 ding. Yes, that is what I'm saying. Because if we want the double for our trouble that happened for Job, if we want to go from the pit to the palace like Joseph did, then we have to be willing to take the sacrifice as well as the success. We have to be able to take the pit if we want the palace. We want that stuff, but we don't want to go through anything. So here's what I want to say. I want you to don't trip in your trouble if you want double for it. All right, guys. So I hope y'all got that. Did you get that, Shavon?
That was powerful.
Girl, listen. All right, guys, we'll be back. I want you to take a water break. And we will be back right after this video. It's time for the Ella Johnson Show. I'm so excited that you've taken time out to tune in to the Ella Johnson Show. I hope you enjoy the broadcast. You may laugh, you may cry, but I hope you'll be moved by what you hear. So sit back, relax, and I'll see you at the end of the show. You know, one day someone asked me, Ella, why do you like to have talk shows? Why is it so important for you that people come onto your show to tell their stories? I said, because people have to understand that things don't happen to you, they happen through you. So I like to be that platform for people to be used by God. And now it's time for the Ella Johnson Show, where we set the table for real talk conversations. Stay tuned. And we're back, guys. Welcome back to the Ella Johnson Show. Did y'all enjoy that video? I know I'm just old school, so you'll oftentimes hear me do things with old school music. I'm just saying it's in my blood. But anyway, if you are just tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and all month I've been bringing women on to my show to share their stories, and we're going to do just that again today. My guest, Shavon Williams, is in the building all the way from Boston, Massachusetts. Right, guys? Listen, we almost missed the show. She and I were sitting here just having a time talking. And I said, oh, wait a minute. We have to go live. Right? But she's so interesting, and she has so much good information to share with you guys. But she is a recent grad from Boston University. She got her master's in social work. Smarty. I love it. I love it. She also has a BS in human service. She is a survivor, an author, and a domestic violence specialist. She's been working with survivors for 8 years, guys. So she understands this. She understands what to tell you, how to coach you. And I thought it was wonderful to start and end this month with her because she's going to give us some information that's going to help. She just released her newest book. And I said newest because she's going to release so many other books. But she just released her book and she is showing it there. Domestic Violence Awareness Month. What better time to bring out her new book? The title, Dear Survivor, You Are Not Alone. Guys, you have to go to Amazon and get her book. I am waiting on mine to come in the mail. And I want to give away a book today. So if you are watching the broadcast and you're getting involved, and at the end of the broadcast, I'm going to let her pick the winner. But I am going to purchase your book, and you just have to send me your address, and I'll have Amazon ship it right over to you because I believe in supporting people that come on here, especially when they come to my show and have courage, tell their story. So we want to support her and to encourage her to keep telling her story. So for someone watching the broadcast, now listen, you're not going to watch like 2 minutes and think you're going to win. No. That would be too easy. No, you have to stay with us during the duration of the show. And at the end of the broadcast, if you are there, then you will win this book for free. So I just want to welcome you to the Ella Johnson Show, Ms. Shavon. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Miss Ella, for having me. It is a pleasure to be here today.
Well, I think you're just a beautiful person through and through. I've been watching your page all week, and I just thought, wow, she's really doing some good things. This is a topic that we just can't stop talking about it because the stats are still growing. People are still dying at the hands because, homicides are still happening, guys, with guns, strangulation, you name it. Those are the top 2 reasons right there for women when it's an intimate partner violence. So we still have a lot of work to do. If you notice, I do have the 1-800-799-SAFE. That is the number for the domestic violence hotline. It's scrolling across the screen there. So if you're watching this broadcast or you know someone who's in a situation that they need to get out of, please encourage them to call the hotline or reach out to me, and I will reach out to the people so that we can get you some help. I don't want anyone to feel afraid to leave because of this, because of that. But Miss Sharon Shavon is going to give us a lot of information today about what you can do. So, Shavon, again, thank you so much, dear. Show that book again one more time. Listen, look at that.
Hey.
I love it because it's for it to be such a serious subject, it gave me life. Like it made me feel warm when I saw the title. I like the title, I like the colors. Very good choice.
Thank
Job
you.
well done.
I am
Job well
very
done.
intentional about everything that I do. And so to bring something to the people that it just represents who I am as a person, as a survivor, how I got to this place, but really just encouraging from one survivor to another, because it doesn't feel good to be in that spot to feel alone. When you're having in those dark times where you're just having battling those negative and idle thoughts, and you just don't know what to do, who to turn to, who you can talk to that you can trust, who's not going to judge you,
Mhm.
right, for what you're going through, or, you know, accuse you of playing victim or lying,
Mm.
or even just being afraid of what people are going to think of you for accepting or putting up with something like that.
Oh
So
yeah.
there's so many different things. So this book definitely will help someone who's going through those dark times. um, but yes, we will we will go from here.
Yeah, well, I like that too, Siobhan, because that's what this broadcast is all about. We like to bring stories on and finding people that are willing to share their stories. This subject, believe it or not, there are a lot of people that were willing, but there are a lot of people that are still kind of shy about it. And we love on you anyway. If you have survived this and you're just not ready, it's okay. The Ella Johnson Show loves you, and we will be here when you are ready to tell your story because you are helping people a lot of times. God, things we go through things, and it is to share, to
Yeah.
help other people. So we're gonna just dig right in, guys. Siobhan, tell us a little bit about how you grew up, what that dynamic was growing up in Massachusetts.
So I am from Boston, Mass, and growing up, my childhood was not an easy thing. I can tell you that much. I am definitely a unique person. I have always been known as the different one,
Mm.
or the outsider or the outcast. Growing up, my mom has five children. Out of the five, I am the middle child and the only one with a different father. So
Mm.
to just grow up and to struggle with not necessarily fitting in or being accepted because you are different. And
Did you get teased by your other sisters and brothers because you didn't have the same dad as they had?
oh yeah, there were times that we definitely got
Oh,
into it. And siblings always get into things, so
right.
that's a part of the thing. But just knowing that you come from someone else, um,
Mm.
and if you're not accepted by the one that your mom is with, then that can change the dynamics in the home as well. So, you know, having that experience in my childhood, and also at some point in my life being sexually abused, and then ending up in an abusive relationship later on in life in high school, that those three things in itself, not knowing who you are, trying to figure out what your purpose is, trying to
Yeah.
figure out if you're worthy,
Yeah.
if you are valuable, if you're loved, you know? And so there's a lot of things that I've gone through. All of my work, everything that I do definitely is a part of that reason why.
Now I want to go back to something because I cannot tell you how many people have sat right where you are on the Ella Johnson show and have shared their stories, and sexual abuse is always part of it.
Yes.
And I'm like, why is that? I don't know. If do you think it's because when we were growing up they knew we weren't going to say anything and they could kind of get away with everything? Because I know in your household, just as well as mine and a lot of people watching this broadcast, you just didn't talk about what went on in the family.
Oh
Do you
yeah, you
think
can
that
never
that
talk
was one of
about.
the reasons that they would do it because they knew they could get away with it?
That's a really good question. And I'm not sure if I know the exact answer to that, but I would
Right.
think that part of that has a role that plays in it. The other part being is that, when I think about my situation and I think about being in an abusive relationship and just thinking about the other person, not to give them an excuse, not to give them a pass, but to understand the bigger picture and to see where are they coming from. What was their childhood like? What did they go through
Right.
that was traumatic in their
Yeah.
childhood? So I
Right.
think a lot of the actions um, that abusers or offenders do, it comes from something that they've experienced in their past, in their childhood, something that has affected them and traumatized them. And
Yeah.
because of that, maybe they seek to hurt other people because they were
Mm.
hurt unintentionally.
Yeah. That's
And
why I don't like to bash the abusers because they need help too.
they do.
I wish I could get someone who has abused people to come on the show
Mm,
and because they're not going to get judgment here. I don't play that. But I want to find out because they need this same love. They do. Or
so
the behavior will continue.
hmm and if you really think about, even as someone who, everybody goes through some form of trauma in life. I don't care if it's a
Right.
car accident, I don't care
Yeah.
if it's a matter of you losing someone, you experience trauma in some way, shape, or form. And when that happens, it hits you in a place where you're vulnerable and
Yeah.
you're not at your best and you're weak and you're emotional.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times we don't want other people to see that side of us. We usually hide in those moments.
Mhm.
We keep those moments to ourselves, whether if we're crying ourselves to sleep at night, or you're emotional, you just lost some, you don't want people to see that. And so for someone to violate someone else or to take out their
Yeah.
frustration and anger on someone else, that tells me that you have some issues, and it
True.
may not stop with me. So it's nothing personal. This is really
Right.
something that you have to deal with. But with any person, if you don't have the proper support to deal with those things in that deep, vulnerable spot, when you hit that, you can spiral out of control. If
True.
you have that support, you can break down. You can have a mental breakdown. You don't know how
Right.
it will affect you.
Right. Now,
When,
when we talk about these childhood things and
Mhm.
things that happened in our childhood, as a child, it's very difficult to deal with it because
Absolutely.
it's almost like you don't get any help from that. It's like, baby, just get over it. But as you become an adult, something triggers it. And you and I were talking about this before the broadcast because we were like, it starts flaring up in your relationships and you don't know what happened. Next thing you know, you're at divorce court and you're like, but what happened? you know? And when is it okay to start dealing with that stuff? Because people, even at our age, as we get older, we still don't want to deal with it. We're like, girl, that's in my past.
Yeah.
I am forgetting it. But you don't really forget it. How do
hmm
you deal with it? And should you deal with it as an adult?
Man, there's so many different layers to that, because when you go through something traumatic, you're already dealing with your own experience and trying to figure out how you're going to get through that. Which at that point, you begin living in survival mode. Now it's
Uh,
about, how do I get by? How am I going
yeah.
to go on a day to day basis? Now, this is a part of your everyday coping mechanisms. Now, there's good coping mechanisms and there's bad coping mechanisms. But as a child, I definitely colored a lot, loved
Mhm.
puzzles, things that would help distract
Yeah.
me, take my mind
Yeah.
away. I did a lot of writing. That was one of my biggest things, writing to let out those emotions where I wasn't talking to anybody. So that was my way of letting it out. Music was a big outlet. Like, I was a big believer in making my space peaceful. That was my sanctuary. I had to learn how to make my space a sanctuary, and that was my place of peace. But even throughout the years, um, another part of, like, how I got here today, I just knew once upon a time that I was supposed to be a nurse. I did not see myself being a domestic violence specialist, being in the field, working with other survivors. And, when things happen to you, you try to forget about it, try to tuck it away. You try to act like nothing ever happened because you don't want to go back to
Yeah.
the feelings of shame, doubt,
Yeah.
being accused of lying, and all of those things
Yeah.
that we went through. That's very hurtful. So, growing up and going through, I decided I'm going to be a nurse because as a child, I was really sick and always at the hospitals, and the nurses were always there. And that for me was the best way of helping someone. So
Now I
that's
want to go back because I don't want people to miss this part. What is it that put that thought in your mind? This is the part that I really enjoyed when you were telling me about this. Where did it come from? Just out of the blue to be a nurse? Where did that come from?
as a child, from the time I was born, I was always so sick. I had the worst immune system. Um, my aunts, my mom, anybody was like, if you were sick, isolation. You can't be around her. She got to be in
Yeah.
your room. And so
Oh,
for me,
wow.
that was a part of my lifestyle of going to back and forth to the doctors, taking medicine, and trying to get better. Um, and so that was my way of giving back. I wanted to help the next
Right.
person, and that was what I saw. So I pursued that, and
Hmm.
fast forward to high school, applying to college. I'm going to nursing school, get into a relationship, right, with this guy who was about 3 years older than me. It was my junior year of high school. He was in college. And in the beginning, honeymoon phase, everything going well. You're thinking that all this attention and spending time together is good. This is
Now,
good.
was this your first boyfriend? Because I want to back up. Is this guy that you're like your junior senior year?
This
Was this the first boyfriend?
This was my first real relationship, I would say.
So you were all up there. You were on
Yeah,
cloud nine. Was he
yeah, I
cute?
was.
Not that that matters, but was he cute?
I thought it was
Yeah.
cute.
Okay. Not that that matters, guys. That was a horrible question, right? But so you guys were liking each other, and then you're in the honey. Everything is good,
We're
right? So
dating,
yeah,
decided to make things official and spending
were
time
your
together.
parents okay with that? Was your mom okay with the serious boyfriend in high school?
I mean, you know, to be honest, a lot of people in my family didn't like him.
Really?
A lot of
Why?
people in my family did not like him,
Just up
and
front,
I
they didn't like
understand.
him?
When you bring somebody around, how your family. Some people are protective, and they like, let me see who this. Let me see what this person's really all
Yeah.
about. Now they noticed some things before I noticed some things,
Interesting.
and that's what I bring. What it boils down to for me, they noticed some things before I noticed some things, and when I did notice some things, I was naive about those things, and I thought, maybe this will get better.
Now,
We have those
what kinds
moments.
of things what kind of things did they notice and share with you?
Uh, so, with him, more and more time passing by, very overprotective, wanting to spend all his time with me, not wanting me to be around other people, other friends, not, very much so wherever I go, he has to be.
That's a huge red flag.
Wherever I go,
Huge red flag. Was he involved in any sports? Was he
yes, he was. And
That's
that
interesting.
that became a problem when I was in my freshman year of college. So, finishing up high school, we were still together. This also was a part of I'd say after about a year of us being together, I started going to church with him here and there. And I wanted to know more about God. I was seeking to learn more and trying to figure out who I was as a person, childhood stuff. All of that stuff begins to come up and surface as you are growing up, and
Uh,
you get to that place of seeking your identity and wanting to find out what your purpose is in life. And then if you're already struggling, I know I struggled with my self esteem, not having my dad there. I struggled a lot with relationships when it came to guys, and that's just the reality of it. Um, but Yeah, a lot of my family didn't like him, and I think the protectiveness and wanting to be by my side, but everything, and not, wherever I go, he goes. I think they noticed that a lot sooner than I.
Yeah, that is very that's not normal for teenagers because
Yes,
we're all trying to, if anything, they're trying to get away from you because they want to
yes,
hang out with their friends. So the
and
fact that he was so clingy, yeah, that's a little
mhm.
scary.
He was an athlete. He did play sports. In my freshman year in high school, that's when I ended the relationship. When I started going to summer program at college, and he knew my schedule, but it became more questions. Who are you with? Who are you talking to? Who's sitting next to you? If I didn't answer his call, it was like, why didn't you answer my phone call? Everything was just an argument, a blow up, to the point where I was just like, I cannot take this anymore. I called him up. I was like, come see me today. I was on campus. Come see me. He drives up to come see me. It was like he knew what was coming, because scary thing about it, he had my pictures laid out on the dashboard when I got in the car.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And I was very, I don't know what made me think of it at the time, because I wasn't necessarily thinking that I was in an abusive relationship. Um,
Nobody does. They don't.
right.
Yeah,
But the time that he came was like, gave a little bit of time right before curfew where I had to go back in. And so it's like, I just have this short period of time. Let me break it off. And then I'm going to go in, and that's going to be the end of it. So
right.
able to break it off. And he's like, no, like, wanted to talk. I'm like, I have to go. You know, we get, we're taking a break right now. Maybe we can get back together later on, but right now this is just not working. I need a break. I can't deal with this. I'm trying to focus on school. Like, this is too much. Go back in, phone blowing up for the rest of the night. I hadn't talked to anybody. All of my friends, family thinking she's never gonna leave him. They're gonna be together. Like, nobody thought I would leave him.
Is it because they tried to tell you what they saw and you weren't trying to hear it? Is that why you think that they were like, she's done? She
No,
loves this guy, nothing.
I don't think it was that. I think it was the fact that I was already so invested, and I allowed the isolation phase to happen.
Gotcha.
So I slowly moved away, and when I moved away, it was like communication stopped with friends, no hanging out, like not talking as much, because I'm spending time with him. I'm going to his games, going to practice, I'm going here, I'm going, So it was like spending all of that time. So to them, it was like, she's never going to leave him.
So
So,
this is important. This is important, Siobhan, because a lot of people, women, especially young women, we think that, oh, girl, I can't do anything for this man. He is crazy about me. That's what we think, right?
girl.
And everybody that thinks that end up thinking something totally different later. But
Okay.
carry on. Continue.
So, it got to the, like, after that point of breaking it off, I didn't call anybody. I didn't tell anybody. The only person who knew was my roommate at the time. And my roommate was sitting there, like, I was so emotional. Phone's blowing up. I'm not answering my phone. He's texting me off the hook. He is just calling back to back to back. And then eventually I start getting calls from family and friends because he started calling people. He called my mother that night crying. He called
Oh my
my
gosh.
best friend and was telling her, like, I left her. He was blaming my friends for leaving him. Like, it was this whole big thing. And I wasn't ready to talk to people about it. So now I got people calling me, asking me questions. And I'm like, oh my God.
What
Like,
did your mother say? I'm curious to know what your mother said when she called you.
her first thing is like, what's going on? Why is he calling me in the middle of the night crying and talking about you left him? And it's like, I did leave him. It's too much. And after I left, that's when everything got worse. It was like he did a 180. I saw another person that I did not know existed. When
Now,
I,
did any of them ask you why did you break up with him?
yeah, people asked why.
What'd you
Um,
tell them?
I just couldn't do it anymore. It was too
Okay.
much. I felt like I couldn't breathe. You know, you want to be around me all the time. There's always a million and one questions. Instead of us being able to have a conversation, everything is an argument because you think there is another guy around. Even
Oh,
if there was somebody
that is
past
exhausting.
me talking and you
Yeah.
heard a guy's voice, like, who is that? Well, why are they next to you? Like, what?
Yeah, I couldn't have done that either.
So, I was going through all of this stuff and it just escalated, us being together. He had my bank account information. Ladies, don't do that. I was
Don't
definitely
ever
my
do
personal
that.
information and have him do things for me. And he took
Oh
advantage
my
of
God.
that after we broke up. He started
Did
charging
you
things
change? You didn't
out.
change your
Oh yeah,
pin or
I had
not?
to. I had to because he started charging things to my account. I had a negative balance one day and
Oh,
now I'm having to call the bank like, what's going on? I didn't authorize these charges and now there's this a freeze on my account, whole investigation, and I'm getting these calls, private, playing on my phone, pick up, you just hear somebody breathing on the other line. He starts following me. He noticed my friend's car, he's following their car, to see if I'm with them. It just got out of control. When I tell you I thought I was living in a Lifetime movie, I just knew one of these days I may lose my life and then
did
he'll
you? I
take
was gonna ask you. Did he do anything that made you feel like he was gonna kill you, or did it just feel like he's just gonna stress me the hell out?
no,
Which one was it?
I honestly felt like this was the type of situation where if he couldn't have me, no one else could.
Oh, that is
That's
so
how I
scary.
felt. And I lived
Oh,
life looking over my shoulder from day to day. I did not know where to go. I did not know who to talk to. I didn't know who would believe me because you got blocked numbers.
yeah.
So it's like if you can't prove that it's this specific
Right.
individual, me not thinking, let me go to the police, see if they can trace some calls or trace some emails, because I blocked a million email addresses that were different. I was getting phone calls at my job when I went to work, like blowing up my work phone, like, excuse me, I'm on the job. You trying to get me fired? you
Oh
know?
my
And
gosh.
there was one day that he was calling my job. I just want to talk to you. I just want to talk to you. And I said, okay, you can come in my lunch break. We can have a conversation, but that's it. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere with you. We can have a conversation and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Comes during my lunch break one day. I get in the car. I said, we're not leaving from here. We're staying right here.
Right.
He tries to drive off. I open the car door. I would have thrown myself out of that car because I did not trust going anywhere with him, because I really felt like if he had the opportunity and if he could not have it, he would try to kill me and then kill himself.
I really do hate to bring this up, but that's exactly where I think he was thinking. If he didn't say it, that's exactly because based on what I've read and different stories I've read, that's how they think. I can't have no one else will.
The
Yeah.
stalking was a whole nother
Yeah.
level. He was an athlete. He played on his college campus. So me being a freshman, I didn't know that many people. I had people coming up to me like, are you Shavon? People from the team on the basketball team at my school who knew him, that he was questioning about me. Like I had people coming up to
Wow.
me telling me like he's asking questions about me, like really questioning them. People that don't know me, people that I don't
That's
know.
scary.
So
That's
I'm like,
scary.
this is really scary. This is crazy. Like I
Now,
need to,
did you think there has to be someone I can tell this to, or do you think you can just handle it?
you know, there were people in my family that knew about it, learned about the situation. There were friends of mine that knew, but in terms of going for any support services or anything like that, no.
There was nothing. So, I mean, and this is the thing
Or at
that's
least I didn't
unique.
know of anything.
Right. The
And
thing that's unique about your story is that he never hit you. He just emotionally just messed you up
now
emotionally.
I feel like had I, because he when I tell you it took years for him to leave me alone, I would get cards in the mail for my birthday every year with my name, my first name, my middle name, and a question mark at the end.
What was he trying to say? You should be my wife?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And when
There's no
I was
way. You're crazy. Why would I? No. Oh my
listen,
God.
Miss Ella, when
It's
I
so
tell
sad. This
you,
is sad to me too.
it
'Cause I
is,
just wonder what he went through in his life. I really do, Shavon.
I just don't know. Um, I have no idea. I tried to talk to some of his family members. They did not want to get involved. When I wanted to get baptized, and when I was going to meet with his pastor, him and his pastor at times, just preparing and talking about getting baptized, the process. About the second time that we went, his pastor called me into his office, asked me to talk for a moment, and I'm like, okay, I'm thrown off guard, like, what is this about? So he sits me down and he's just talking to me, like, talking about our relationship and how I should not let the enemy come between our relationship,
Oh,
and how friends are trying to break us up, and like
oh,
just how I need to be aware and all of this other stuff. And I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. I was definitely taken off guard because here I am, in the beginning stages of learning about God, and wanting to know more and wanting to get baptized, and now you're coming to me about a relationship, and you're not asking me, what's going on. Is there
that's
anything
what
that
when
I
you
should
I
know
am so
about, or
baffled. I am so baffled by this because this came from the church, the
it came from the
minister.
church. It
And
came
he didn't know
from
what you felt about this relationship. You may
no.
not even be serious about this man. And now he's telling you, well,
Mm.
I know he's stalking you, making you crazy, but the devil is bit. He is the devil. I'm sorry. I'm
you know,
sleeping with the devil.
thank
Oh my
God.
God, that just blows me that we get that pastors sometimes have a tendency to get involved when
Hmm.
they shouldn't with bad advice. Okay, but
Yeah.
go on. So what happened? You got baptized?
No, I did not. Thank God I had a friend at the time who was a member of another church, inviting me to come and introduced me to her pastor. And I had the opportunity to speak with the pastor, which was really good for me and really insightful. Just was able to share what was going on and my concerns. And, the pastor told me, like, listen, because that was another thing that he told his pastor, that his thing is, God said I was supposed to be his wife. He had that
Oh,
said.
oh my
So that
God.
was the thing. So the pastor
Ooh.
tells me, I tell her what's going on, and I tell her what he says. And she's like, listen, if anybody ever tells you that God said, God will give you confirmation if that is meant for you.
Mm,
You put that on the shelf and you wait for God to give you confirmation. Okay.
right.
Now, in having a conversation with him after this, and I'm sharing with him, he got so upset. He called that church, left a message saying that he wanted to talk to the pastor and hear it from the horse's mouth himself.
Oh, oh my gosh. That's kind of scary,
Yeah,
Siobhan.
yeah.
I can
So,
only imagine what you were going through, not
oh
knowing where
yeah,
to go. Yeah.
and then that time too, I was always taking public transportation, so I was always on feet. And I walked a lot. Like, I was a person, I enjoyed walking. That was another thing that was an outlet for me. That was a part of me
Right.
processing things and, just letting things out.
Right.
And so, just being by myself at times, taking public transportation. One day he spotted me. I was heading to my sister's friend's house, and luckily I was not too far. He busts a U turn real quick. I had just come from getting my hair done that day and turned down the street. And when I got he catches me right before I get to the porch, and he's like calling my name, like, I'm not responding. I keep walking, keep walking. I'm walking fast. He's like, can I just talk to you for a minute? Can I just talk to you for a minute? And I'm like, no, you cannot. And I'm just walking and walking. I get to the porch. Walking up the stairs before my sister's friend opened the door, he pulls off, speeding down the street. And
Oh
then
my
right
God.
after, when I walk in her door, I get a call from a block call saying
I
nothing.
think he was just getting a kick out of just making you crazy.
You know,
It's
I don't
just,
know.
I mean, because emotional abuse is definitely one of the types.
Yeah,
I, financial abuse.
mental abuse,
It's not
physical
just
abuse.
physical. It's
No.
physical, emotional, financial, psychological abuse, all kinds of things, guys. So it's easy to understand why you would think that you were not a domestic violence victim, because we automatically think domestic violence means slapping and hitting and choking. That is only one form. That's the physical aspect of it. But what you went through is the psychological, emotional, it seems
Hmm.
like. So
Yeah.
how did it eventually start to turn around for you?
Oh my goodness. It took years. I had changed my number because the phone that I had, he got it for me. And so he literally one day he got a list of the call log for the month and started calling numbers and asking people how did they know me. So I was getting phone calls from people, ran like somebody just called my phone asking me questions about you and how I know you, and it was just so crazy. So I had to change my number.
Good
Um,
deal.
I was in college at the time, so that in itself was just another sticky situation. I just had to be careful and be aware of my surroundings because, like I said, I just never knew if he was going to pop up. Eventually, I became an RA on campus and worked on campus. I stopped working at the
Hmm.
job I was working at.
Hmm.
So that was a little bit, let me, changing up the schedule so that it's not
That's good. Yeah,
what
that was good thinking. Yeah.
was happening. Um, but it was a journey. It took years. It took about 3 years for him to leave me alone.
Wow.
And I saw him one day being in downtown Boston. And then when I tell you, he gave me the look of death. I'm like, if looks could kill.
When was that? What year was that?
Oh my God, this was many years later after the breakup,
Oh.
many years. And
But
I
that's
was
strange. So many years later he was still.
I was like, whoa. Eventually, he ended up getting married and everything. I was like, oh, thank
Oh, thank God.
God. you know, thank
Right?
God. Hopefully, I am no more a factor for him. But hopefully, she doesn't have to go through any of what I went through or anything worse. You know.
Now, did
Um,
you have to get therapy for what you went through with him?
oh my goodness. Well, therapy. Let's talk about that for a second. Now, due to my childhood and being sexually abused, I did go to therapy as a child, but it was very traumatizing. Um, One, I had a worker who didn't look like me. Two, I had worker after worker after worker because they kept leaving. And then I had to start all over again with a new person, retelling my story, re traumatizing myself all over again. The other thing is the cultural piece, that understanding, having that background and that understanding to be able to address what's really going on. So, therapy didn't work. It wasn't good for me growing up and it was traumatizing. And because it was so traumatizing, I did not go to therapy until my later years, probably like in my late 20s or early 30s.
So did you find that the therapy was not working because they just couldn't understand where you were coming from? Like, you guys
Well,
don't get it. This is how it is in our household. Because
I
I
think a
noticed you
part of
mentioned that
it,
they were people that didn't look like you. So did they just have like a total just blocked off mentally about what you were trying to say?
well, a big part of it was whatever turnover was happening.
Oh,
Because when I kid you not, I had three therapists probably
oh,
back to back to back. And that
that's no
in
good.
itself is just like, that's a no no.
Yeah, yeah.
Because now you're, after maybe like a month in or 2 months in, now you want to start me with someone new. And now I have to start back at ground zero because it's like nobody's passing over information or you just don't know or whatever the reason is. but just having to tell your story over and over and over again.
I can
You just,
imagine.
I shut down.
Yeah,
I
I can
definitely
believe that.
shut down.
Yeah.
And, just going through different things in my life, I can say in my adulthood that I've been living in survival mode for so long and not even realizing that. Um, and so, you know, when I was
Let's
in
talk
school,
about that. Let's talk about that before we go on, because we tend to think, myself included, is that when we live in survival mode, we're doing the thing, we're getting it
mm,
done.
that
We're
strong
like,
black
girl, it
woman.
is what? Girl, I came back from a whole family of strong black women. And
Mm,
then one day, something triggers it. And you're like, ooh, it takes you back to that girl that was getting sexual abused.
mm,
You see her face, something reminds you of that night or that day or that morning that someone hurt you. Or
mhm.
maybe somebody said something and you go back and you remember that's the same thing he or she said to me when they were hurting me. And now you're stuck. Now what do you do, Shavon?
Or
Now what do you do?
or how about, you know, being not only just being stuck, but you're in the moment, you don't know what to do, you don't know who to turn to. Mm. Going back to that moment, it brings you to a point of realization that you have some internal work to do.
Yes.
And until you begin to face yourself and those vulnerable moments and facing your fears and going back to those places where you were traumatized, until you deal with that, you are not really going to be able to move forward in your life. You are
True.
not going to be able to have relationships that are healthy, because there is going to be something that comes up that triggers you to respond in a defensive mode. You go into your defense mechanism and you
And you
respond
go off and they're
how
like, what did I do? I
and
just said hi. And now you've cursed everybody out and they have no idea.
listen, I had a
Yeah.
moment, one of my friends was like, you need to stop talking to guys like this because you ain't never gonna have men. You ain't never gonna get married. I was like, I
Oh
don't
no.
care. I am not looking for a relationship. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. I don't want to be bothered. Don't even look or come my way because you will
Oh
get
no.
hurt. And then I will laugh in your face. That was just how bad I was. And like beginning years of college, guys that were interested, don't even look at me.
Don't
Don't
even
come
think
up.
about it.
Don't talk.
I when you said that you got to look at yourself and deal with it, I personally think, Siobhan, that the first thing that you have to do is forgive. And it takes courage to forgive,
Yes.
because that's the part that's hard. Is when you're
Oh my
like, but what, he
goodness.
did this to me and he left me there like a dog and he didn't care and he bashed my name and he talked about me and everybody was picking at me and you want me to forgive that? Yeah,
Listen,
you're
let me tell
doing
you,
it for yourself. You are.
God is so good,
Yeah.
because when I tell you, during my first couple of years of really seeking God and really trying to figure out my purpose and what my worth was, God brought me through some things. And when I tell you he brought me through, he also brought me to a point of being able to forgive. And when
Yes.
I say to forgive, I mean, oh, Dr. Juanita Bynum, the book No More Sheets, that book right there, I was reading that book when my healing occurred, when my healing transpired. I was in the middle of reading that book, and it talks about soul ties, and it talks about,
Yes.
she's just real raw, and she talks about relationships and really dealing with those soul ties, right? That come along with intimacy, right?
Yeah.
Or sexual intercourse.
Yeah.
I had a dream one of those nights, and it was like I was swimming in water and I saw one of my abusers. And in that moment, it was like instant healing. It was when I woke up, when I tell you, like, I just had a release of tears because I felt so light. I felt the healing, and I was like, "Oh my God, like how?" and this person, it's not that this person apologized to my face. It's not
Right.
that,
That
they,
usually doesn't happen. So don't wait for that.
okay,
That usually
oh,
doesn't happen. Yeah.
you could say
Yeah.
that again.
Yeah.
But it's not that any of that transpired. It was what God was doing and the work that He was doing in me. And so getting to that place of being able, and not only just forgiving the person who violated you or who hurt you or who abused you, but you also have to forgive yourself. Because when
Yes.
you're going through that process as a victim, as a survivor, listen, we know how to beat ourselves down. You already down. You don't need to kick yourself while you're
That's
already
right.
down, nor do you
That's
need
right.
somebody else to do that for you. You're already hurt, you're bruised, you're traumatized. Something happened. You don't need more damage. Now is the time where you give yourself compassion, you have compassion for yourself, and you show up for yourself. You
That's
know,
right.
no one will truly understand exactly what you're going through but you.
That's
So
right.
when that moment where you learn to show up for yourself, not only are you helping yourself, but in doing so, you'll be able to help the next person.
Now I wanna bring Carolyn's comment up because there are a lot of people that are probably right where she is and feel this way. She said it would take years to forgive someone. I have God in my life, some things I can't forgive, and there's definitely things I will not forgive. One day I will. Now let me give you guys a little backstory about Carolyn. She is a survivor, and she's not just a guest on my show, because once you are on the Ella Johnson show, you become family, right? So you're my cousin now. But Miss Carolyn was on my show, and she talked about her son. She was a victim of domestic violence, and instead of her husband, she was just so convinced that he was going to kill her. She had even prepared her children. Your father's going to kill me. Here's the insurance policy. Y'all going to be good. I've set you up. I've done what I need to do for you. But he turned around and he actually killed their oldest son
Mm,
right in front of her. He shot both sons, and one died. Now, in some of the research I found, it talks about that this is one of the things that they'll do. They
mm.
may not do it to you, but they'll get somebody that you love. Yeah.
That is one of the biggest things. And let me
Yes.
tell you, and being on the other side, working with survivors. So since I've been in this field for over 8 years now, you know, that is one thing that survivors are afraid of. And when it comes to
Yeah.
thinking about leaving, before they
Yes.
even decide to leave, the questions
Yeah.
that they're asking, or even if like they're looking for services and people say, oh, you have to get a restraining order in order to qualify for
Yeah.
this. It's like, I
It's
can't
like,
do that. If
yeah,
the threat
exactly.
towards my life is, the threat that I receive is if I bring law enforcement involved, if I get them involved, or if I bring that person to court, then someone in my family is going to die.
That's right. It's true. We're going to talk about that because I actually did some special research on that, Shavon, about what are the reasons people stay, what kinds of things that make people afraid. And we're going to address that because I think that in this article that I read, it addresses a lot of reasons why people stay. And you being the social worker here for this, I want you to be able to really help us unpack what they can do if this is their situation, right?
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I just wanted to bring that up that Carolyn talked about because forgiveness is very key to all of this. And
Yeah.
she said one day she will, and I believe that you will too. But I can imagine how difficult it is to forgive the very man that gave life to your son to take it away. Now
Yeah.
he's in prison for the rest of his life, but that doesn't give her son back, and she still deals with it. So, what kind of advice, Miss Siobhan, would you like to give to Miss Carolyn?
Well, one, I just want to address grief. Grief is something that survivors deal with. You grieve the loss of a relationship with that person who you thought loved you, that person that you loved. And so it gets really complicated and your emotions are all over the place. You have mixed emotions. Um, but in terms of moving forward and going through, do what you have to do to take care of yourself first and foremost. If you are not meeting with a therapist, talk with a therapist. If you want to meet with a life coach, you could do that as well. I would also recommend getting involved with other groups, whether if they have some local organizations near you that offer grief sessions for losing a loved one or other survivors who have been through it. See if there are some local organizations that offer groups. You want to get around other people who know what you're going through. They may not have been exactly what you're going through, but they understand what it's like to go through abuse. So
Right.
I say find a community that's going to help you, because back then, even when raising kids, what they say, it takes a community.
Yeah.
And support is everything.
Yeah.
Support can make or break whether somebody stays or leaves. Okay. So you want to make sure that you have a good support system of people who are going to help lift you up, who are going to encourage you, who are going to give you the support that you need, whether if it's a listening ear, whether if it's somebody who's going to sit there and cry with you when you want to cry,
Yeah.
or whatever it may be. Find a community where you belong. And that's
That's
one of
right.
the biggest reasons why I wrote this book, Dear Survivor, You Are Not Alone, because it talks about being in those dark times. It gives a word of encouragement. Like I said, you know, we beat ourselves up when we are going through because you blame yourself for not leaving soon enough.
Yeah. Because that's what you're hearing. People are saying, "Why did you stay? You crazy?" And people stop talking. Sometimes I know people mean well, but sometimes you can send them and you can be the very reason they go back because of what you say. There has to
Absolutely.
be appropriate counseling to someone that's going through this. And some people just talk and don't understand, and they just say things out of their emotions, and you're hurting the situation, not making it good. And I know we mean well, but we really have to be sensitive to people that are going through abuse. It's not that easy as you think. Well, just leave. It's not that simple, right?
Absolutely.
It's not that simple.
And so that
So yeah.
the book, Dear Survivor, You Are Not Alone, it addresses those times. It equips you with words of affirmation to speak life into yourself. It has
Yes.
different coping mechanisms,
Yes.
talking about the importance of breathing. Make sure you breathe, because when you are going through something, you are so tense. Your shoulders are all the way up in here. You can barely breathe. Everything is just not circulating. So you want
Right.
to make sure you don't forget to breathe. Stay hydrated. You know, when you remove something that's toxic from your life, make sure you replace that with something good. You want to think about what are some self-care activities for yourself that you enjoy,
Right.
that you like. You want to
Right.
think about how you can treat yourself. Like, you have been through enough.
Oof.
You have been through enough. And if
Yes,
nobody
God.
else is going to treat you according to what you deserve or acknowledge you, you have to first learn how to treat yourself. Some things that I recommend to some of my clients that I work with: start dating yourself.
Oh, yes.
Know yourself all over again, because this is a new person. You're not going to go back to the person that you was because you didn't learn well, I would hope that you've learned some things in this process. It may not have been a great process, and your experience may not have been great. You may have been hurt, but let me tell you something. What doesn't break you, baby,
Makes you
can be
stronger.
used to make you stronger.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. If you're from the
Yeah.
South, you understand that.
But
For
listen, you can
real.
either
Yes.
allow a situation to make or break you.
That's right.
And I chose at an early age that, regardless of what I went through, and just looking around at family members and the lifestyle, I said, I'm going to live a different life. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to make a difference. These are things that I told myself early on. And even if I didn't end up being a nurse like I thought I would be, I am still doing the work that and giving back and being the change that I want to see in this world. And that is something that has
Amen.
been so healing for
Amen.
me. It has been fulfilling because, being that person to be another source of support and hope for another survivor who may feel like giving up, you know, when you do try to find support, sometimes you're calling places and people like, oh, we don't offer those services, or we don't do this, or you're waiting on the phone a long time just to be denied. And
Right.
you finally get on the phone and talk to someone who's listening to you and saying, listen, that's okay. You know, we can talk this through. Let's see what resources we can come up with, and let's see how we can work this out. You may not be able to solve every problem, but
Right.
being able to help just a little
Just a
bit,
little. Yeah.
help
Um,
release
I-
burden.
it's funny because when you just made the comment that you were going to be a nurse, you wanted to be a nurse. That was what you wanted to be. She's not a nurse. She's a domestic violence specialist, and she's working
Yes.
with women. I want you to share with our audience where that changed and why.
So in my along my journey in being in nursing school, made it all the way up to med surg, honey. And let me tell you, God laughed at my plans. God said, "You think you're gonna be what?" Nursing school was so hard. I failed out of nursing. And when I tell you, I was so devastated.
I
I
bet.
boo-hooed. I ugly cried. I cried for I don't know
Not the
how.
ugly cry.
I did the ugly cry. And I was just, God, I don't understand. I just know I was meant to be a nurse. What is going on? Like, you have to fix this. And if this is not your will for me, like, I need you to reveal your will to me. I need you to tell me what it is I'm meant to do. What is my purpose on life? You know, and I took about three semesters off from school. And then God gave me this vision of working with battered women and children. And I said battered women and children because that's what it was back in the day.
That's right.
So that tells you that was some
Long
little
time
bit
ago. Yeah,
ago.
yeah, yeah.
So, you know, in that time, I said, whoa, I'm looking around. I say, who are you talking to? You talking to me? Oh, okay, God. So I was like, hold on. I'm gonna leave this here for a second. Let me think about this and process what you're showing me
I'd be
right.
like, "Oh, you must still be drinking that wine from the wedding. Must be. You
Because
on that? Okay.
when I tell you the vision was so big, the vision
Yeah.
was having my own nonprofit, providing
Wow.
all types of resources,
Wow.
housing,
Wow.
financial to, classes or workshops, like all of this stuff. And I'm like, God, who gonna run that? Like little old me, I'm an introvert, I'm a shy person. I don't know where you think that is gonna come from. Like,
Mm.
and at that time, I had boxed up my past, stuffed everything in a box, closed it up, taped it up nice and tight, and stored it all the way in the back. I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't thinking about my past and being violated or anything like that. And God brought me back at that moment. He brought me back in that time, in that season, and was like, this is why, and this is what I want you to do. So, in talking about purpose and being hurt,
Yeah.
going through them, listen, God is going to birth some really great things in this year to come, and all of
Amen.
that has been because of the process that I went
Mm. Mm.
through. This
Wow.
book was birthed from the past and being on both sides.
And I think it's beautiful because God needs you there more, right?
Hmm.
And the impact that you would make, you at the time didn't really understand that you'd be using your own experience,
No.
you know? And I think it's beautiful. And I think that part we definitely needed to share with everybody. But I want to get into it because, this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I think this is probably going to be the last broadcast for the domestic violence survivors for the month. So I definitely want to make sure that we hit on some very important topics. And I can't think of anyone better who to address it with than you. But I want to talk about some of the reasons people stay.
Hmm.
Now, I am very, I mean, with all of the people I have interviewed, one thing that's very common are the reasons why people stay. A lot of people, it's very cut and dry. They're just like, no, this is what it is. So let's talk about some of those because you might be able to recognize your own situation in these. Number one, um, unsupportive family and friends.
Oh yeah.
Nobody wants to. Nobody cares. They have their own
Mhm.
lives. They're doing their own things. Where am I
Mhm.
going to go, Ella? I don't have anywhere to go. This is the only home I have. This is the only thing I know is
Or
being
being
right here with him. As
Mhm.
dysfunctional as it is, it's all I got. That's one reason people stay. The fear of being a single parent, the financial struggle that goes along with that. Some women, he may be the breadwinner in the family,
He
and
don't even have
you've
to be
been,
the breadwinner. He can be
yeah,
the one who's just collecting all of the finances. And
that's
if he want to
true.
give you an allowance or
That's
something to
true.
spend,
And you know, it's funny you say that because women will go out sometimes and work, and he controls the money. Siobhan, what is that?
yes, yes, turning over the money. And this goes for same-sex relationships. This doesn't matter what type. You may be turning over your money to at the end of the day that you're working for. And you have no control over that.
And you can't go anywhere because he controls it.
No car, you
Oof.
can't, you don't have
Oh,
access to a car if
girl,
they're
it
18
takes a
or
minute.
less, you know.
Ooh,
So
that takes a minute right there because I'm like, what? There is, I say there is no way. Yeah, that's what I mean. Uh, that I'm gonna work every day, punch in every day, slave it over that check, and make sure that I have what I need, and say, here you go. But it's like, Ella, you're not in an abuse situation. You don't know what's going on. He's probably threatening. And I think maybe, is this true too, Siobhan, that sometimes the women are just like, you know what? I don't want to fight. I don't want to
yes,
fight with him. Just give him the check. It's all right. He gives me
absolutely.
what I need for me and the kids. I'm good.
Because one of the worst things about leaving a situation and staying and blow up happening is that you don't know what to expect. So when that unexpected hits, you know, you that's fearful. Now, in leaving, you don't know if there's really going to be help to help you get out and to sustain you,
Yeah.
right? And so you stay because you know what to expect. You know, at least if, something happens, you can control when you're going to get hit or the abuse is going to come. Like when you feel it, it's like, okay, let me brace myself for this. You know, you have some type of controlled environment. But when you leave and you don't know if you're going to end up back there, and they say, if you leave me, you come back, you're going
It's
to get
going
it
to be worse. It's
worse.
going to be worse. Oh my God.
So if you
So,
try to leave and it don't work out, you come back.
but Siobhan, if it's money, what resources are available for a woman who wants to get out and she has nothing? She has nothing.
So this is
Is
what
there
I would say.
something for people like that?
For if you want to leave a situation and you are leaving and you have nothing, the first thing I would recommend doing is reaching out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline or to a local domestic violence agency that's close to you and talk to somebody about how they can help you get out and what resources are available. When you talk to somebody, you know what options you have. If you're going to leave, you have more of an idea, am I going to do this in the morning, in the evening, or the night? If you leave, is there a plan of where I'm going to go from here, how I'm going to get there? And so connecting with an agency, they can help you with trying to figure these steps out. So you don't
That's
have to
good.
sit at home and wonder, you know, how am I going to get out of here? How would I even get to the bus station if I was going to leave? Or how would I get to the airport? If how am I going to leave everything behind? Make sure you have your documents.
Yes. Yes.
Make sure you have access to your medications if needed. And if you have children, make sure you have theirs and yourself. That's all you need. Everything else, you'll figure out. They
Now,
will
do
help.
we make a mistake? Do women make a mistake sometimes of talking too much? Like, well, I'm gonna tell this one.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
It could
yes.
cost you your life, women. It could
Listen,
cost you your life.
I will tell you this, if you were trying to leave, you cannot share with any and everybody what you're
That's right.
doing, what you're planning, where you're going. I wouldn't even call when I get to where I'm at. because some people, and this gets a little tricky when when you're in a relationship and both parties have common people that they have relationships with,
Right.
because
Yeah.
then somebody might unintentionally give some type of information, even like it's like, oh yeah, she's doing all right. Oh yeah, I just talked to her. She was in Boston or she was over here.
And before you know it, it's too late.
Well, so
I mean, no, no, no. She's not in Boston. She's in Tennessee.
you
No, you
really
said,
have to be
yeah, yeah.
careful who you were talking to
Right.
and what information you were giving out. And if you were going to a local or a domestic violence shelter, local or far, they have rules that you have to abide by. If you're in a domestic violence shelter, it is confidential. You cannot share that information. And if you share that information or if your location gets compromised, you have to go.
That's what I
And
was going to ask. Will they actually kick you out
they will make
if
sure
you?
that you have another placement, but it's a safety risk to have you there because there are other people that are also there as well. And you
Oh,
just never
wow.
know.
Oh, wow. I hope you guys are hearing this because one of the keys to getting out, because you do need to get out. That's not the issue here. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Hmm.
Be strategic. Have a plan, like Shavon is saying, your documents, everything lined up. And if you have an account with them, I would, how do they do that without setting him off, without letting him see something? It's like, wait a minute, did you take all the money out of the checking account? Like, how do you navigate through something like that?
If you are going to take money from an account and you're planning to leave, you make sure you do that like last minute. Like
The
that's
very
probably
last
the
thing.
last thing that you do before you are running to where you're going.
That's right.
And get rid of the card or whatever. Like if you don't have no use for that, if he's going to be tracking that account, you get rid of that card. Don't use it because he can track it and see where you are and what you're purchasing. Where you're purchasing things. Don't use it.
Yeah,
Turn
you
off your
have to.
location on your
Yeah.
phone, your
Yes.
computers, your
Stay
tablets,
off
everything
Facebook.
digital. You want to make sure your location is not being shared, especially iPhone users with your iCloud. You want to make sure you log out, change your password, everything.
Good
If you
advice.
have, especially if you have a phone line where both of your phones are on the same account, you got to change that.
You have to change that because, like you said, all they have to do is just, I mean, and if they're on that account, they have access. They can get all and track it. And if you're using that phone, they can
Car
see where the last
insurance, there
place.
have been
Yeah.
issues with matters of car insurance. You have to figure out something with your car insurance. I don't care if you have to call them and tell them, listen, if anybody calls or, I am in a domestic violence relationship and I am at risk right now. Like, can we set up some security measures so that nobody else is getting into my account? Like, there are specific things that you have to do. Credit cards, if they're on your credit cards and they have access to that, you want to make sure you nip that in the butt early because we know one of the first things that they're going to do is ruin your credit so that when or if you have the apartment and they're causing damage to the house and you get evicted, that's on you. That's not on the other person. That's on you. That's going to follow you. So you're going to have a hard time getting an apartment. You're going to have bad credit. You're going to
Yeah.
have a hard time being qualified for stuff. So you have to think about all of that. But, there's legal assistance for those who have been, victims of domestic violence going through. So don't feel like if you are in this situation and something has happened, like you can't get out of it or there's no way to fight it. There are ways.
There are ways. Another reason that people, the survey says, is that there are not enough shelters. People,
Oh my
like,
goodness,
they
no.
think, yeah, that's one of the reasons they say they don't leave. There's not enough shelters to house all of us. Like,
Listen, especially single individuals who experience domestic violence. It breaks my heart. I've worked on, the SafeLink hotline, and one of the toughest things is like turning people down over and over and over again to tell them that there's no shelter space available. And, they're frustrated, like, well, what do I have to do? Die, or does something bad have to happen to me
oh,
first? And it's like, I'm so sorry. There's not much that I can do. It's out of my hands. But really, single individuals suffer so much more. If you are a person who has children, at least a child or children, at least if you there's no space in a domestic violence shelter, you can go to the Department of Transitional Assistance. Like there may be other family shelters that you could utilize that has access to a whole lot more shelters than just the domestic violence shelters. There's a difference in the shelters, but you have a
Do
little bit. They have,
churches usually take people in a domestic violence situation?
um, that's a really good question, and I think that depends on the location. I
Yeah.
have not really heard of any churches in Massachusetts that take families in who are suffering from domestic violence, but there are some programs that I believe out of state that will accept.
Now, Carolyn, she's making some very good points because Carolyn really went through it. And she brought out another point that I was going to mention earlier about how women don't feel protected by the police. We call the police, she called the police hundreds of times. Nothing ever happened.
You know,
They just were very nonchalant about it, letting him sit in the front seat when they came, like homeboy kicking it kind of stuff. And it cost her son his life. And she says their shelters are like 2 hours away in her area. She's in Troy, Alabama, and she's not in an area where she could have run.
hmm
So these types of situations are real, and it's like, where do we put our state monies? Like, can we start having our representatives, start really looking into these domestic violence situations and start addressing some of these same reasons that people stay? One being they don't feel like the police or the law enforcement is going to work in their favor.
that is very difficult to deal with. I will say, um, when it comes to having the police involved, you have some officers who are well informed, and then you have some officers who are not as much, and
Yeah.
then there becomes conflict of interest where sometimes the abuser might know the police.
Yes.
Um,
Did
and
him a favor, you
that is
know?
a very
Yeah.
touchy situation. That things like that would definitely be considered high risk because that means that that person has access to information, and it's really hard to keep your privacy and to keep your identity concealed.
You're
Um,
stuck,
yes.
basically. You're stuck. And
Um,
this is real stuff. And it's heartbreaking because we want people to just get out. But
yeah.
then when they give us all these objections to leaving, it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh yeah, there's so it's like, oh my God. I just sitting here, I'm like, what can they do? And there's nothing they can do.
Even the shelters too. The shelters being far out, when people are placed in shelters are not usually, local in a place where you have access to your support.
So that's
Um,
intentional when they're a long ways out. Is that what
not
you're saying?
not it's not necessarily intentional either. It's just based upon availability. So you even if you got placement, you might be placed far out. If you did have any type of support, you may not have access to that. Some people think about, well, especially if they have children or if they are an individual who has health issues and they need to be near a certain hospital, or to have access to that hospital,
That's
you
true.
know,
Yeah,
that's a whole
that's true.
nother thing to take into consideration. Now, depending on who you have fighting with you or for you, you might be able to push to get some things to happen to make sure you have transportation. Um, but it's very difficult, and a lot of people struggle with, well, do I leave? Do I go that far? Like I don't have, sometimes you're leaving and you don't have transportation to go grocery shopping or to do this. So you're thinking about, how am I going to survive?
Yeah,
How am I going to eat? How am I going to go
yeah,
grocery shopping? And how am I going to do this?
yeah.
And you're like, well, it's kind of not worth me leaving, you
And
know?
it's like once you think of all those roadblocks, you're like, man, I just might as well just stay. I mean, it's better. I mean, yeah, I trigger. He may get triggered and beat me, but I'll just, like you said earlier, brace myself for it because I have
Mhm.
nowhere else to go. Another reason: religious beliefs.
Yeah. Listen,
The
people.
Bible says there's only one reason to divorce.
I have
I'm
I have
like,
worked with women of faith, and it was a struggle to go to even consider getting a divorce. And it's not something that I was pushing, but it's like something that they were struggling with. They went for counsel at their church, and the pastor tried to counsel them and talk about the abuse or to talk about this or that. And yeah, like, we're gonna have to get a little bit more training out there for clergy staff so that we can make sure that survivors are really safe. But
that
these
sounds like a seminar to me, Shavon. I
things.
mean, that I know I am 100 serious because that's the first place a lot of people run. They need to be equipped with the right information.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
And so,
because they could be sending someone back to a home to die.
yes, absolutely.
So I think that schools should know how to handle it. And I think churches should know how to handle it because they are a big resource.
Mm-hmm.
And when the kids come to school, kids may mouth off and say something. Y'all
Right,
need to know how to handle that, you
right.
know? Because the
And
little
they,
kid that's sitting in the class with him may go home and tell his parent because
mhm.
they overheard y'all talking. And now that parent knows the daddy that was doing it. Say, yeah, they were talking about you in school today. Really? What? Now that kid might get beat and the woman might get killed.
Yeah, it's
So
it's a
people
lot.
need to be trained. I think so. I really do.
Hmm.
Um, Believing a two parent household is better. That's another one.
It's not even, and sometimes it's not even that thinking that a household is better. It's, parents struggle with taking their child away from their other parent. And, there's also another side that comes to that. If you decide to leave, then you, as that parent that they're with, you now have to take responsibility and answer to your children. You have to face the backlash from your child if they are upset with you or taking it out on you because you took them away from their other parent. And now they can't be at their old home, and they may not be able to go to their old school and see their old friends. And now they hate you, and now you're the problem, and they're going to give you hell. So there's a two-edged sword that goes with that. Sometimes there are children who understand, and there are children that
Yeah.
will, like, will tell their parent, you have to
Yeah.
leave. Like, I don't want to see you getting hurt,
Mm.
you know?
Out
So
of the
there,
mouth of babes, there's some kids that are just so bright. And
yeah,
it's like when they say it, you're like, you know what?
yeah,
You have that moment. Carolyn says, my problem was I got tired of leaving my house with my kids, and he just stays in the house that I was paying for, and the police act like he couldn't be removed. So basically, Carolyn is saying that she just didn't want to leave because she was paying for everything, and he's just there, so she didn't want to leave her house. What do you have to say to that?
as sad as it is, and I know that it's a lot, and I hear a lot of survivors say this, like, it is not fair that I have to uproot my whole life and interrupt everything that I'm doing and possibly have to change my job or leave my job because now I have to relocate. But when it comes down to at the end, is what is going to give you peace.
Right.
Sometimes, it may just be worth walking away because you can start over somewhere else.
With the shirt on your back if it takes it.
You can start over somewhere else, and you can
I'm
even get
telling you.
assistance with starting over somewhere else. Okay.
Yeah.
But what you can't get is when somebody is draining you physically, mentally,
Yes.
emotionally, and
Yes.
causing you to
Yes.
be sick in your body. When you are sick in your body, you can no longer go and do the things that you need to do, and you don't have that strength or the energy to do it. You're just tired and you're drained. So when you think about I need to go and I don't want to do this, and you know, is it worth me doing it though? What what else will how much more will it cost me?
Yeah. I have another a reason here is that they say that the prosecutors don't prosecute the cases. That goes back into that law enforcement. Now, I had a guest one time. This broke my heart, and she talked about how This was a parent telling the story of her daughter who ended up getting killed. And
Mm,
she was talking about how she had been encouraging her daughter, call the police, baby. You got to call him. He can't just keep beating you. And she finally convinced her daughter to call the police. She was very proud of her, but something had happened and the daughter was not able to leave the apartment, because she would have been violating or something like that.
mm,
So he was arrested, but he was released on a PR bond. She didn't know he was released.
mm.
Next thing she knows, he's tapping on the apartment to come in, and she's just like, she thought, I thought I did the right thing. I thought he was gone. Thought I put him away. And he came into the house and he took a knife and he stabbed her 20 times in her stomach. And he said, I don't want another man raising my baby, because she was pregnant.
Mm.
And he killed the baby, killed this young woman. She was like 22 years old. And she already had another child. And now that mom is raising that daughter. But she did the right thing, Shavon. She called the police.
Let me tell you, I'll say this. If you are somebody who is in an abusive relationship and the police have been called to your house in the past, or there's a possibility that they will be called in the future, if something like that ever happens and that person is arrested, you want to make sure that you are in contact or you ask the officer, who can you call to talk to make sure that when he is released or when he is going to be released, prior to him getting to released,
Right.
if you know that somebody's coming to bail him out, that victim is notified, because that is something that should happen, you know. So that's very sad and unfortunate, and things like that do happen. But
Yeah.
anytime someone is arrested who has been abusive to you physically and you know that they may come back again, you want to make sure that you have somebody to contact you when that person is going to be released, so that you have a heads up.
And the sad part about it is that a family member was there that day when he came, and she thought it's good. And she sent the family members away, and he killed her right after they left.
I would never trust.
Very tragic.
Listen,
Uh,
the breakups and the makeups, okay? It can take up to 7 times for a survivor to leave before they're finally done. They can leave and come back, leave and come back, leave and come back. But the reality of it is, if you leave and you come back, you may not have the opportunity to leave
that's
again.
right. Amen.
And
Mm.
so, I say that to say that if you are someone who really feel like, and if something happens and they apologize and they say they're going to do better, and you know do not let them back in, because they can play it cool and act like everything is fine. You don't know, they can kill you in your sleep.
Amen. Yeah.
You don't know
Ugh.
what they are thinking of or what's conjuring up in their mind, because when they're locked up and when they're behind them bars, or when they're in the back of that patio driving to the station, you know what they're thinking about? Do you know who they're thinking about hurting? Because you put them in a situation. Now
That's
you might
right.
be affecting their job, you're affecting their livelihood. This is your fault. You're going to be the person that they blame, because they can't take responsibility for their actions. They've been living
Right.
life in their trauma without dealing with it, and you are a casualty in the process.
Mm.
Maybe nothing
Yeah.
personal.
And another one too, Siobhan, they say that um, they feel that their self worth is contingent upon getting and keeping a man. Now, this one I couldn't believe, but I read this 2 or 3 times and I said, wait a minute. Are you saying that they'd rather be with a man that abuses them than to go out and be with someone that could treat them better? They
Listen,
feel like this is my self worth. I got to be with a man and I just got to love the one I'm with.
sometimes individuals would think that some attention is better than nothing.
Oh,
And
this
this
is,
this I will say, this most likely stems back to some childhood issues, where you went through some things. Maybe you were abused, or maybe you were, your parents weren't around, but they weren't really parents. They didn't really watch you. They didn't really love on you. They didn't invest in you. They didn't do those things. So now when somebody comes to give you attention, you're all here for it. And this person's
Mhm.
like doing things or telling you that they love you. And over time, it's like, oh, if you leave me, nobody's going to want you. You already had low self-esteem. You was already in a low place. So they're just taking advantage of that. But you know what? If they didn't see any value of you, then they wouldn't be with you.
That's right.
Well, that in itself should tell you something that you are worthy of something.
Yeah. And then there was one other reason, fear of losing custody of their children.
Oh, yes, that is so big. Especially if you are the parent that either you stopped working because your partner wanted you to stop working and you trusted them and they said they would take care of you and all the bills and you did that for years. So by the
Oh,
time
yeah.
you did want to go get a job, you ain't got nothing to add
Mm-mm.
to your resume. You know what I'm
Mm-mm.
saying? It's like, what skills I got? What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do for work? Like, I've been a
Yeah.
stay-at-home mom, or I've been at
Yeah.
home catering to X, Y, and Z. Then you have that issue. Or you're not working because you lost your job, and now they're the only person with a job, and they just make way more money than you. And they're like, I'm going to say that you're an unfit parent, or you don't have the money or the resources
Because
to take care of our kids. So I'm going to take custody. I'm going to,
they go low, Siobhan. They
they
go
really do.
low.
They really do.
Jesus
And,
Christ.
you know,
Oh, wow.
it's all about abuse is all about power and control.
Yeah.
So it's not about it's like, okay, you left me, whatever, but I'm gonna make your life a living hell. I don't care if I move on, I get into a relationship, I get married, have a whole nother family, I'm still gonna make your life a living hell. Because the next time I find out that you want to date again or you got somebody coming around, like, that's not happening. I'm gonna destroy your life, and don't let us have kids together, because then I'm really just gonna make it miserable. And we're gonna go to court, and I'm gonna drag you through court. And then if you have a job, you might lose your job because we're gonna be back and forth to court. And I'm gonna do everything to prolong the process, which means I'm not gonna cooperate with the courts. I'm not gonna turn in my financial statements when I want to, or but if they're the breadwinner, they're like, I don't care. I can turn this in. I make the money. She don't do this, or and another thing is the mental health status. If you are going to therapy, they'll try to use that against you and say that you're crazy. So there's just so many different factors. But if you are working with a domestic violence agency, they can definitely help refer you to an attorney who does have experience working with victims of domestic violence and the law. So you want to make sure that you have the right attorney that's working with you when you're going through these situations, because they do go low.
They go low. And I interviewed a woman on my show once, Siobhan, where she was going through this type of domestic violence thing with her husband, and he got the kids.
That happens. It
And
happens.
he was abusing the kids. And she's like, no, don't put my kids
That
with him.
that
Oh,
happens, and it's so sad. I always say, whenever there is a custody battle going on, get a guardian ad litem
right.
to come in to do an investigation. They will question you, they will question both partners, they will go to both homes, look through, make sure it's fit. They will talk to other providers, people that are working with them, just to get some background information, because you want to make sure that somebody is there being neutral to the situation.
Now, is that something that you would try to head off before you leave? Would that be part of that exit? Like maybe have a private conversation with somebody, or do you not get a chance to talk to them unless you're in the system already?
No, you can absolutely reach out to have a conversation prior to.
Oh, okay. So
Hmm.
that's there you go, guys. If you have kids, because kids totally changes the game
It
when
really
you're in a
does.
domestic violence. But you have to do something, guys, because so many children are experiencing so many difficulties right now because they're either in this situation or they're still traumatized about the one you pulled them out of because they're having anxiety, depression, they're acting out in school. Siobhan, do you find that a lot of kids are really getting the brunt of this with these domestic violence situations?
They absolutely are. And, kids, they notice so much more than parents
Yeah.
think they do. And it affects them so much more than parents think it does. And I would definitely recommend possibly having your child talk to a therapist. um, you know, that is something that's going to be necessary. You have kids who are traumatized, kids who are afraid of the police because, that's connected to a domestic violence situation. You just you have to get help from them because they're struggling in some way, shape, or form, and they don't know how to deal with that. They
I'm
don't know what
telling
to do
you.
with their emotions, and they don't know who to talk to. All they know is that something's going on. It's not right. One of their parents is getting hurt. They're trying to be a protector, or they might try to do little things to try to prevent things from happening and getting themselves involved. So it's
And they love their dad. I mean, even though he kids are kids, they're very innocent and they're very pure, and they love their dad, even if he is doing these bad things. And it's so traumatizing. It is so hard when we're in these situations and children are there. That's
yeah.
the hardest.
And
That's
and
the hardest.
Carolyn said something about, giving him visitation rights.
Yeah.
That is something that is just unpreventable sometimes, and I see it
But
more and
he
more
killed
today.
one of them though, Siobhan.
Oh,
You
this
mean
was
to tell
after the fact. Oh,
yes.
oh God.
He had already killed her son and they
Oh
granted him
God.
visitation. Are
Now
you
some of
kidding
these
me?
judges, I just don't know where their minds
Oh my
are at, but
gosh,
they need
man.
more training. Some of them need more training too.
No, they need to be fired. They need to be put on blast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
actually, that you say that, there are victims who are coming together today as we speak. And I know of some in Massachusetts who have started to come together, who have had issues with the same judge and
Oh,
bringing
wow.
that up. Yes, they are going to the state house. They are making noise. They are talking.
That's what I'm talking
They're
about.
complaining.
Yes.
Guess what? They got a judge to talk to them who will listen. Okay.
Wow.
So if you were somebody who was going through, you're having a hard time with a judge, most likely there is another survivor out there who has had a difficult experience with them as well. You want to reach out to your community. You want to share, you want to post, you want to get other people together to
What?
come with you. Because when
Yes.
you have others standing with you, you are stronger. So when we're united, we're stronger. So come together,
I like that.
who are going through it, and you make noise. Because
It
when
just
you
takes
make
that one case.
noise and you cause havoc, guess what? They got to pay attention.
That one case. That's all it's going to take, Siobhan. I can't wait to see you on the local news. Yeah. No, seriously, it is going to take that one case and they're going to finally pay attention because I've been interviewing victims of domestic violence, I mean, survivors, for at least a year and a half now. One week we had so many survivors that we had to have a show every night, and we had like two or three per night. People
Wow.
want to get it out there because they've been so wronged. I was looking today before we came live, and I was looking at this story because I wanted something that's recent, that's very current, and this is a story that happened in Nashville, and it's this mom and her daughter. And I mean, I don't want to go into the names and all that kind of stuff, but I just when I saw this, it just broke my heart. But it's in Tennessee, and this woman had a trail of stuff. Like she left a trail behind. She recorded conversations where he was
Mm.
choking her. He was telling her he was going to kill her. She was going to the cops. He was getting out. She did everything she could. He finally got out one of those times because he had threatened her with a gun. And now, based on my research, I learned that strangulation and guns that heightens the death
Yes.
toll big time
Yes.
when that's
Hmm.
involved. That should make everybody on alert. Like, wait a minute, gun? He said, and in one of the stories I read, he had knocked her out, and when she woke up, he had a gun in her face,
Mm.
saying, "I'm going to kill you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." Well, he got out, and back in Tennessee, I think one of their laws is that they have to, if a gun is involved, you have to agree to give it up to
Yep.
somebody, either a licensed firearm specialist,
Yep.
a friend, or I think the police or something. I can't remember who that third person was, and so they don't remember who he agreed to give his up to. Well, it's because he didn't. And he killed her. He caught them coming out of the house and he shot the mom and his daughter. They tried to get away. And so this son now is on a search to make the police pay because when he got out, nobody alerted her and let her know he was out. They were supposed to, and they just didn't. She was calling 911 and they were like, no one is available to come. So she did everything she was supposed to,
You
and
know,
she still ended up dying.
it's so sad because the courts right now are so backed up,
Yeah,
and it doesn't make an excuse for them dropping the ball on things. But and I feel for the victim witness advocates who are catching the brunt of things and not able to handle all of the cases by trying to juggle all of this stuff. I understand the complexity of it, but at the same time, you know it's very important for the state, for the government, for everybody to understand that when you drop the ball, that could cost somebody else's life. In
that's
doing
right.
this work, I don't take it lightly because I know at the end of the day, even if I can go home, that person is still dealing with that situation and may not be safe.
Yeah,
This is their life. This is
yeah.
somebody's life.
Breaks my
This
heart.
may involve other children. Like,
Yeah.
who am I to go home and or to not help or to make things better, knowing that the next person is struggling. You
It
know?
breaks my heart. It does because I know in your line of work, you're not going to be able to help everybody,
Yeah.
Shavon. What happens when do you guys, you and your agency, do you work with other states? So, in other words, let's say someone watching the show tonight and they live in Texas and they want to reach out to you. They like what you're saying, they trust you. Is there a way for them to reach out to you and then you know where to send them in Texas? Do you have like different affiliations with people in different states, relationships, or do you guys network? Like, how does that work from state to state?
So right now, I work with Riverside Community Care, and they have a bunch of different offices. I'm working out of the Somerville, Mass office. If somebody wanted to get in contact with me, I would say go ahead and follow me on Instagram at shavonwilliams.msw.com. .msw. On there, inbox me. Now, our agency, we don't necessarily have other contacts in other states, but if I've run groups online virtually. In the time of COVID, Zoom and everything has become very popular. So I have accepted clients from other states to join the group.
Nice.
That's something that, and it's free of charge. So that's something that people do have accessibility to. If somebody reached out to me, I don't care if you are where you're located and you needed support or assistance, I'm going to do what I do.
I
I'm going to
know.
try to help you and support you and give you the resources
Yes.
that you need. I don't care if I don't have that resource already. I'm going to do some more research and see what I can send you because you reached out. I can't go ahead and turn around and ignore
Yes.
that
Yes.
because I'm
Exactly.
going to be thinking about this person needs help now. I need to get this to them ASAP. Let me see who I can get them connected to. Let me see if they're in another state. Let me see if I could talk to my supervisor if we can try to get a ticket for this person to come to Massachusetts or whatever the case may be. Can we get this person to do an intake to get into shelter in Massachusetts? Like that's the type of thing that I would do. That even if you're not here in this state and you needed assistance, if you reached out, I will follow up.
If you ever wondered why God called you, you just revealed it because you have to have the heart of Christ to be
You
able to do that.
you
Yeah.
absolutely do. And people, I've had survivors that I worked with who are now stable in a safe place and are like, I want to give back. How can I do that? There's a bunch of different ways that you can give back. You can donate to another survivor. You can donate to a domestic violence organization or a shelter. You can volunteer your time. You could do some little things and write some handwritten notes. Do some cards, write some
Yeah.
handwritten notes. Survivors always want to know that somebody else is thinking about them. That will make their day so much better just to know that I'm
Well,
not alone.
I would love to encourage the survivors that you work with. Keep me involved, Siobhan.
Hmm.
Christmas is coming, especially the kids that are in the shelters. I
Hmm.
want to make sure that all of them get this, which is my children's book. I want all of the kids in the
Ooh,
shelter, the women that you work with, just give me a number. I will
okay.
ship them directly to you.
Okay.
I want the kids to have that, and if you guys can, and then I'll send some money to put it in a Christmas stocking and make it nice. the holidays
Oh,
coming
that
up,
is so
and
awesome.
then enough money to get them some candies and put bags. Now, I'm not going to ship it already put together. I'll send the money, and y'all do it, because it might melt,
Okay.
So I just want them to have some kind of cheer. So
Okay.
whenever you have stuff like that, please keep me involved. I mean, because we are in this together. At
Yes,
the
we
end of
are.
the day, we are. I don't care if I don't know them. I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter. We need to help because they didn't pick that situation. And I think
Absolutely.
that this is a public health situation. Domestic violence is a public health issue. I know you guys may not see it like that with Ella. She chose to be with this man and da 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 da. Well, she didn't know that he has issues. A lot of us don't. Let's not trip, okay? Because a lot of us have put ourselves in situations, and we are just fortunate that we got out. But some people don't. My cousin is the reason that I started doing these broadcasts because I saw her in 2020 for Thanksgiving, and that Thursday, Friday, hung out Saturday, Sunday. By Monday, she was on life support. Nobody knew that she was suffering in silence. And we had to bury her the following weekend because she was in a domestic violence situation. And he took a belt and choked her
Oh,
until her brain popped, basically. Okay. So these shows are very important to me and personal. And women that are going through that, I want to do my part. And I am encouraging those of you that whenever you share something, Shavon, I'll share it. We'll just keep sharing it all over Facebook, and then let's help. Because I saw this. This is what made me think about it. I saw this on your page.
yes.
Tell us about this.
So, Casa Myrna is one of the domestic violence organizations in Boston that I used to work for. They also run the SafeLink hotline. And so, in spite of me working there in the past, I've connected with the shelter manager. And I'm like, I want to do this. I want to have some people sponsor a book for a survivor. And my follow up plan will to be go and do a 6-week workshop following to go along with the book. And so I came up with the flyer, and those are the next steps. So if you were somebody who wants to donate to a survivor in shelter, feel free. Casa Myrna, you can look it up on the gift registry on Amazon. Dear Survivor, you are not alone. And yeah, the next steps.
Make it easy for me. Send me the link so I can just hit a button and pay.
And make sure that if
Yeah.
you're not following me on social media, that you do, because I will keep everyone posted on the upcoming 6-week workshop that I'll be doing. And I'm gonna just make it a tour at this point because I need to share this. And my whole goal is trying to get a network of survivors together to have another source of support outside of the regular 9 to 5, because we need that. We really do. It takes a community. And what's more better than having other survivors who know and understand and feel what you're going through? And when you want to link up with somebody, or if you want to make a change in the world, y'all can come together and do that. So
Oh.
make sure you follow me.
Okay. So
Thank
here's
you.
the thing. I need you to pick the winner for the book.
Ooh,
Someone who is watching this broadcast. Thank you guys so much for staying with us. That's what I'm
yeah.
talking about. You guys are awesome.
You
And
know,
before we
I,
said that we would give away a book tonight. So Siobhan is going to pick the winner, and I am going to send that. I'm going to purchase that book from the Ella Johnson Show. I just need whoever she picks. I need you right after the broadcast. Send me your address, and we'll get that shipped out tonight.
Miss Carolyn Peterson.
Yay! Congratulations, Miss Carolyn. Awesome. Well, then because I know her personally, that'll be easy. I think I
Um,
probably already have it anyway.
all
But
right.
yeah, send it to me again, Carolyn, right after the broadcast. Just send it to my phone. She has my number. So congratulations, Carolyn. Guys, if you're just tuning in, you missed it. You're just going to have to go back and watch. This has been an amazing broadcast. But I also want you guys to support Siobhan, and please go and purchase her book right here. Dear Survivor, you are not alone. It's on Amazon. It's available right now. It's very easy. And she has the copy of the book right there.
Look at
Yes.
this. You also get some spaces. to self-reflect in there, some, words of affirmation, some challenges, because we have to challenge ourselves just a little bit. But
Just a little
don't
bit.
feel like you were in this alone. Listen, I wrote this book for a reason. I am a survivor, so one survivor to another. I'm here to support. If you have any questions or comments, please do not feel free to reach out to me. Don't feel like it's a bother. I'm here for it. I support you. I'm here and I acknowledge you.
Yes. So do me a favor, Siobhan, please, as soon as you can, get me the children, how
Yeah.
many I need to send, and their names, because I want to sign every single one of them, and then I'll just cash out you for this the stuff to put it together for them. So please, please keep me honest and remind me, because I'm getting old and my mind slips sometimes. The heart is there though, right?
Yes.
But I am excited. I can't wait to get your book. I wish I could have it personally autographed, but it is what it is. I am coming to
Listen, we can
Boston
make
one
that
day.
happen. I will be
Yes,
doing a tour at some point in time, so we're gonna make that happen.
we'll make it happen. Listen, but you're gonna have to bring me to Boston when it's warm,
Okay.
okay? Because I
I
can't do that
message
snow,
received.
baby. Yeah, that snow. It's cute to look at. I might even eat it, but I can't operate in it like that. Do people eat snow? That's not crazy, right?
No, it's not a crazy answer to ask. Some people do eat snow. I
Oh,
don't eat
okay.
it
Because
because,
oh, okay.
especially if it's been outside and it's dirty, but some people eat snow, yeah.
Okay, so now I feel crazy. It just looks so nice. Like I like, I like stuff. I like ice.
Mm,
That's
yep.
why. That's why I like it. Because it was a pregnant thing. When I was pregnant, when you're pregnant, you have all these cravings. Ice was
Uh-huh.
one of mine one time. So I just know I'm not pregnant. Okay.
And let me
Thank
just
God.
share this. I'm gonna tell y'all how good God is and just how faithful He is to carrying out the purpose that He shows you or reveals to you. I wanted to release something this month, and I've had quite a few projects that I've been working on within this past year. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm about to have surgery. So like I struggle with endometriosis, and I didn't even
Mhm.
have a surgery date at the end of August. I was assigned a surgery date for September 30th. When I got the date, I said, you know what? I'm gonna start writing this book, but I don't think I'm gonna release anything for October. But then I was like, you know what? If I'm going through all of this and I'm in pain and I know that I've been suffering in my body, I'm gonna make this worth it. I'm gonna finish this book and I'm gonna upload it. My goal was the day of my surgery, but that didn't happen. However, 6 days after the surgery, I uploaded the book and published
Look
it
at
on
that.
Amazon.
Look at that.
And when
Oh,
I tell you, I'm out of work right now, I'm on leave, trying to let my body to heal up, that the turnout so far has been so amazing. All of the support, all of the love, just so it has been everything. And I went to this show. Um, I went to this conference yesterday, and I did not plan on. I wanted to go, but wasn't sure I was going to be able to go. And then I was like, I have to go because someone blessed me with a ticket, and was able to meet B. Simone, Stefan Speaks, and Kurt Foster. And there are some great things that are going to come out of that. So you can expect to see a whole lot more in the upcoming.
ooh, yay!
I am just so excited. Thank you all for tuning in and for listening. And thank you so much, Miss Ella, for inviting me to be on your show. Like, that
Yeah.
was just confirmation for everything that God has revealed to me that is happening right now. So I'm actually
Wow.
sharing this journey with you all. And to all of my amazing clients that I work with or have worked with, people say, oh, you're my angel, or I've been so blessed
Aw.
by you working with me. But at the same time, I receive from you guys as well. And you guys
Amen.
help me to grow and to strive even harder, to go harder and to fight harder, to make a change and to share. So thank you all. I really do.
Siobhan, you could have given up. When that whole nursing thing didn't go out, you could have lost it right then. I am very proud of you, because most people would have just said, you know what? God don't love me. He does not love me. Look at that. I worked so hard. I'm trying to do something good, and I failed. But you
Mhm.
knew there was something bigger, and you knew that there was a purpose. You
Yes.
knew it,
Yes.
and you're walking in it right now. And I will do anything I can to appreciate what God is doing in your life. So
Thank
let's stay in
you.
touch. Let's definitely get this done for the women, because I know that the holidays and all of that, and I'll be sending it out FedEx, but I want to make sure that the kids have it. But I want to do something, and you and I can be strategic, but I want to do something for the moms too. But
Yes.
that's just what I want to do for the kids. But you and I can talk about that later to see what we want to do, because we want to make them feel special. They're in a shelter, for
Yes.
the holidays.
Yes.
And let's make it feel, I mean, I know they're just excited that they're not where they were. But
Hmm.
but let me ask you a question before we end our broadcast. When they're in the shelter, are they like, do you guys have an already transitional housing that's going to take them from there to a new apartment or something?
So when clients are or participants are in the shelter, they are working with an advocate one on one. They Some programs might have a housing specialist on site that works with them to get housing. If not, that advocate that's located in the shelter that works one on one with them will help them with all of that stuff. So they're applying for housing, they are applying for whatever assistance may need. They're following up on those applications and making sure that they send in their documents. Then it's just a matter of waiting for what's going to come through to get an apartment, and all of that. But you definitely have someone working with you and supporting you through that process. You're
That's
not
good.
just going to leave there and like, oh, my time is up, I don't have anywhere to go. But I will say this, you can't be picky about what you're offered. You, in the past, I'm not sure right now, like in the past, it's been you could have up to three different options. That's given to you. And if you don't accept any of them, then you're on your own.
Oh, wow.
Because, like we're working with you, and housing, that's not something that we have control over. That's the housing management. They make their decisions. Now, if something came up where you applied and you were denied, which that does happen when you're trying to apply for priority, they might say, oh, we need further documentation that you're at risk, or whatever. They might say we need a restraining order. Sometimes they might deny you in the hopes that you won't appeal it or fight for it. I always tell my clients to fight for it, and I have gone with clients to housing appeal appointments to fight things for them, and with them, because sometimes they are so caught up and overwhelmed and don't have the words, or they don't have the fight because they're so emotional with everything else that they've been dealing with, and it's just too much. So sometimes you need an advocate to come with you. You need someone
Absolutely.
to come with you to help fight and hold other partners accountable for what they're offering and what they should be providing. Somebody shouldn't have to, they've showed you pictures of guns, they've showed you, that it's not safe, like making a case that it's not safe. Everybody can't file for a restraining order. It's
That's
not
right.
safe for everybody to file for a restraining order.
Exactly.
Sometimes that may make things even worse. So
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
for a housing authority or somebody to say that you need a restraining order in order to qualify, that's not true.
And somebody not knowing will go and do it. That's why
or
it's
or
very
or they
good.
won't do it, and they'll just say, I've been denied, I don't get this apartment, now I have to wait for something else.
Or I'll just go back. Or I'll just go back. Wow.
And
Listen,
so,
guys, I love that you have agreed to serve as a liaison between the states if need be. I really, really do appreciate you for that. And I don't know what kinds of calls you get, but when you have those calls where somebody's like, "Oh, I need an Uber. Can you call me an Uber?" I mean, little stuff like that, because I'm sure that kind of stuff happens. Look, I just need to leave and I need an Uber. Can you help me? I mean,
mhm.
you have my number. You know how to reach me. I don't have a problem ordering an Uber. I don't care about the semantics. I just want people to be safe. Happy birthday, Carolyn. She said she just turned 53.
Oh,
So look at that. Getting
happy
the free book.
birthday.
Happy birthday, beautiful. I love it. That's awesome. And one more comment here, guys, before we get out of here. Johanny says, I met Shavon at the first shelter that I was at. My kids and we are still receiving love and care from her. Wow. Johanny, is she, Johanny, I definitely, and remind me to put one in there for her and her babies, her kids. I don't know if they're younger kids. They may be older and they're like, really? You're sending me a children's book? If they're age appropriate, I would love to share one with you too, Johanny. Okay,
Her
guys.
youngest is in
Listen.
high school.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, I tried. I tried. But listen, guys, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show. Mr. Campbell says, thanks again for sharing your
Thank
endurance.
you.
So yeah, I appreciate that as well. But I want to thank you guys again for tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show. Share the broadcast, play it back. If you know that you have someone that's a friend of yours that is a survivor, please, please, by all means, encourage them to get out before it's too late. But we really want you to reach out to people like Shavon. You know, these people are trained in knowing what to say, what to do. So if you really have a friend, send them to her or to someone that's certified, that knows how to coach and encourage people that are living in those types of situations, because it's very delicate and we really need to know how. Is there anything else you would like to say, Miss Shavon, before we get out of here?
Last and foremost, I just want to let all of you survivors out there who are watching, you stay strong, you hang in there. You are not alone. You are supported. I acknowledge you. Miss Ella Johnson acknowledges you. And there are other people who are out there who would love to support you along your journey of healing.
Yeah.
So please do not sit there and keep it to yourself or feel like you have to go through this journey by yourself. Just reach out and I will make sure that you are connected with a community who will support you along this process.
I love it, guys. Remember the motivational moment for tonight. Hopefully, you guys got it. I hope so. I worked so hard on these mahogany motivational moments. But guys, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time right here next Sunday for the Ella Johnson Show, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show. We'll see you next time.
We are supporters of the Ella Johnson Show. We live in South Korea. We have been watching Ella Johnson Show for like a year now. And we love her show. Her show is very inspirational, motivational, and educational.
If you would like to be a guest on the Ella Johnson Show, send an email to theellajohnsonshow@gmail.com or send a text message to 407-334-6997.
We love Ella Johnson Show.